The Dawn of Doubt. Skepticism in the Shadow of Invasion. August 13th, 1940, 06:30 hours. Biggin Hill Aerodrome, Kent, England. The siren wails like a banshee through the misty dawn, ripping pilots from their bunks. Boots thud on damp grass as men sprint toward their machines, hearts pounding under leather flight jackets. The air reeks of aviation fuel and cigarette smoke, the ground crew shouting orders amid the roar of Merlin engines, coughing to life. You can almost feel the chill seeping through the cockpit canopy, the vibration of the propeller slicing the fog. This isn't a drill. The Luftwaffe is coming. Hundreds of them, black crosses blotting the sky like a plague of locusts. In the dim light of the dispersal hut, Flight Lieutenant James Ginger Lacey rubs sleep from his eyes, glancing at his assigned aircraft, a Hawker Hurricane Mk1, serial number P3395. It's a sturdy beast, all fabric-covered wings and riveted fuselage, looking more like a relic from the last war than a modern fighter. Beside it squats the Supermarine Spitfire, its elliptical wings gleaming like a thoroughbred ready to bolt. Lacey mutters under his breath, echoing the squadron's grumbles. Bloody Hurricane. Feels like flying a barn door compared to that beauty. The pilots know the score. The Spitfire is the darling, faster in a climb, nimbler in the turn. The Hurricane? Outdated, they say. Slower, heavier, with that old-school look. Wooden prop, fixed undercarriage in early models before they upgraded. Skeptical airmen deride it as the poor man's fighter, a stopgap while the real stars take the glory. But there's no time for complaints. The order crackles over the tannoy. Scramble, scramble, vector 120 degrees, angels 15. Lacey climbs into the cramped cockpit, the smell of oil and canvas enveloping him like a familiar shroud. Straps cinched tight against his chest, the instrument panel flickering to life, altimeter, airspeed indicator, the vital reflector gun sight. He thumbs the starter, and the Rolls-Royce Merlin erupts in a thunderous bark, blue exhaust flames licking the cowling. Wheels chock away, and he's taxiing, the Hurricane bouncing over the uneven turf like an eager hound straining at the leash. Up ahead, the Spitfires lift off gracefully, but Lacey's bird needs a longer run, muscling into the air with raw power rather than finesse. As they climb through the clouds, the formation tightens. Hurricanes from number 501 Squadron mixing with Spitfires from neighboring units. Below, the English countryside unfolds in patchwork greens, the channel glittering like shattered glass under the rising sun. But tension coils in every cockpit. Reports filter in via RT. Radar plots show massive formations crossing from France. Henkel HE-111 bombers escorted by Messerschmitt Bf-109s. Hermann Göring's vaunted Eagle Day offensive, aiming to smash the RAF before Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain. The pilots know what's at stake. If the Luftwaffe gains air superiority, Hitler's panzers will roll across the beaches. England stands alone. France fallen. The world watching. Lacey banks left, scanning the horizon. His Hurricane feels solid, the 8 Browning .303 machine guns in the wings, loaded with 2,800 rounds. Decent firepower, but no cannons like the Germans. Skepticism lingers in his mind. He's heard the mess hall talk. The Hurry's a sitting duck, one chap quipped last night over pints. Spit takes the 109s, we mop up the bombers, if we're lucky. Designed by Sidney Cam back in the mid-1930s, the Hurricane was meant as a monoplane successor to biplanes like the Gloucester Gladiator. It borrowed from older tech, fabric over metal frame for the rear fuselage, making repairs easier, but vulnerable to fire. Production ramped up frantically as war loomed, with over 14,000 eventually built, but in 1940, it was the workhorse outnumbered by expectations. The Air Ministry favored the Spitfire's speed, 370 miles per hour top, over the Hurricane's 340, its rate of climb leaving the Hurry in the dust. Yet, as the first specks appear on the horizon, black dots swelling into formations, the doubt sharpens into focus. The controller's voice cuts through static. Bandits at 20 miles, heading north. Tally-ho! Adrenaline surges. Lacey pushes the throttle forward, the Merlin howling as boost kicks in. The Hurricane responds with brute force, not elegance, closing the gap. Below, anti-aircraft guns from London puff smoke, but it's up here where the real fight begins. The Heinkels lumber in tight Vicks, with their glass noses glinting, while the 109s weave above like sharks. Suddenly, chaos erupts. A Messerschmitts streaks past, cannons flashing. Lacey's Hurricane shudders as he yanks the stick, banking hard into a turn. The G-forces press him into the seat, vision tunneling. He lines up a Heinkel in his sights, crosshairs steady, and squeezes the trigger. The guns chatter, tracers arcing like fiery lashes. Chunks fly from the bomber's wing. It veers, smoke trailing, first blood. But a 109 dives on him, bullets whipping past the canopy. He rolls the Hurricane inverted, the world flipping, earth above, sky below, and pulls out low, using the plane's stability to evade. Around him, the sky becomes a maelstrom. Spitfires tangled with the escorts high up, their agility shining. But down here, the Hurricanes bear the brunt. Pilots like Squadron Leader Douglas Bader, the legless ace of No. 242 Squadron, lead the charge. Bader, who lost both legs in a pre-war crash but fought his way back into the cockpit, embodies defiance. In his Hurricane, he racks up kills with surgical precision, downing a Dornier DO-17, then a Ju-88 in quick succession. "Come on, you bastards!" he shouts into his mask, the RT alive with calls. "Break left! He's on your tail!" As the fireball intensifies over Kent's hop fields, something shifts. The Hurricanes, derided as outdated, prove their mettle. Their wide landing gear make them forgiving on rough fields. Their robust construction absorbs hits that would shred a Spitfire. One pilot, Sergeant Joseph František, a Czech exile with No. 303 Squadron, nurses his battered Hurricane home after taking flak. The fabric wings hold but holding. The skepticism cracks under pressure. These ugly fighters are shredding bombers, their massed machine guns ripping through thin aluminum skins. But as the sun climbs higher, the waves keep coming. Göring's onslaught is relentless, over 1,400 sorties that day alone. Lacey's ammo runs low, fuel gauge dipping. He glances back. Smoke pillars rise from crashed enemies, but RAF losses mount too. A comrade's Hurricane spirals down in flames, parachute blooming like a desperate flower. The battle rages on, but whispers of doubt turn to grudging respect. Could this underdog hold the line? The invasion's shadow looms darker. What if the Hurricanes falter? The answer hangs in the balance as the pilots reformed for the next wave.
The cauldron over Kent, brunt of the Blitz and the Hurricane's bloody baptism. August 13, 1940, 11:37 hours, 18,000 feet above the Thames estuary. The sky is no longer blue. It's a churning canvas of tracer fire, black flak bursts, and spiraling smoke. You taste cordite through the oxygen mask, feel the Hurricane's frame shudder as a 20mm shell from a Bf-109E detonates too close, peppering the port wing with shrapnel. Below, the river glints like molten steel, but up here, it's hell's own forge. Flight Lieutenant Peter Brothers, CO of No. 257 Squadron, leads 12 Hurricanes in a head-on pass against a staffel of 30 Heinkel He-111s. The bombers fly in perfect Vic formation, bellies heavy with 250-kilogram bombs destined for RAF Manston. Brothers' voice is ice over the RT. Line astern, go. The Hurricanes dive in single file, 8 Brownings per aircraft converging into a storm of lead. The lead Heinkel's cockpit glass shatters, the pilot slumps, the bomber peeling away in a death spiral that carves a black scar across the clouds. One down. But the escorts are already reacting. Yellow-nosed 109s roll in from 22,000 feet, cannons winking. Brothers brakes hard right, the Hurricane's thick wing root biting the air where a Spitfire would stall. That's the secret no one in the mess admitted. The Hurricane can turn inside almost anything when flown angry. Fabric rips over the rear fuselage from a near miss, but the geodetic frame holds. Brothers reverses, catches a 109 in a climbing turn, and hoses it from 200 yards. The Messerschmitt snaps into a spin, pilot bailing out over Sheppey, silk blooming like surrender. On the ground, the chain-home radar screens at Ventnor flicker with incoming plots. Controller murmurs into the mic. Red section, Biggin Hill, Bandits 40+, Angels 15, Vector 140. The Hurricanes are already low on fuel and ammo, but there's no respite. Göring has committed everything. UJ-87 Stukas scream toward the coastal airfields, sirens wailing like banshees. At Hawking, Ground Crew Chief Petty Officer Banger Wallace sprints between craters, hurling himself under a burning hurricane to drag a trapped pilot free as bombs walk across the runway. Back in the fray, Pilot Officer Roland Beaumont, barely 20, already an ace, spots a lone Dornier Do-17 limping home, one engine feathered. He closes to 50 yards, too close for deflection, and walks his burst from tail to nose. The Dornier explodes in an orange fireball, debris cartwheeling into the channel. Beaumont whoops, then winces. His own Hurricane is streaming glycol, temperature gauge redlining. He force lands on a Kent farm, skidding through a potato field, nose burying in soft earth. As he climbs out, a farmer's wife offers tea. He laughs, hands shaking. "Milk and 2 sugars, love, and tell the Jerrys to sod off." By 1400 hours, the Luftwaffe has lost 45 aircraft, the RAF 13. But the Hurricanes took the worst of it. No 111 squadron alone is down to 4 serviceable machines. In the ops room at No. 11 Group HQ, Air Vice Admiral Keith Park stares at the tally board, face carved from granite. His finger traces the Hurricane losses. "They're bleeding," he mutters, "but they're holding the door." The Spitfires dance with the 109s high above, but it's the Hurricanes that gut the bomber streams, that absorb the punishment, that turn Göring's precision instrument into a blunt, broken hammer. As the sun dips toward the Weald, another wave forms over Calais. Radar picks up 200+. The Hurricanes scramble again, engines coughing on tired Merlins, pilots with cracked lips and bloodshot eyes. Douglas Bader, now orbiting at 12,000 feet with a prosthetic leg aching in the cold, spots the incoming swarm. His voice crackles with dark humor. "Tally-ho, chaps, looks like the circus is back in town. Hurricanes take the clowns, Spitfires get the ringmaster." The next clash is brutal, intimate. A Hurricane pilot, Flying Officer Wizard Wick, closes on a UJ-88 so tight he can see the rear gunner's terrified face through the blister. Wick's burst severs the starboard wing, the Junkers cartwheels into a wood near Canterbury, detonating in a mushroom of flame. But Wick's victory is short. A 109 latches onto his tail, cannon shells punching through the cockpit. The Hurricane flips, canopy gone, Wick fighting the stick as the world spins. He bails out at 800 feet, chute barely opening before he hits a potato field, alive but broken. Night falls, but the battle doesn't. Searchlights stab the darkness. London's first major raid begins. Incendiaries rain on the East End, the glow visible from 100 miles. In the dispersal huts, exhausted pilots slump over tea laced with whiskey. Someone chalks a new tally on the squadron board. 23 confirmed, 11 probables. Underneath, a wag scrawls, "Hurricane, 18. Spitfire, 5. Laughter, bitter but real. The underdog is biting back. But tomorrow, Göring will throw even more, and the Hurricanes are down to hours of flying time before major overhaul. One more day like this, and the RAF could crack. Park knows it. Churchill knows it. In the silence between raids, a single question hangs in the smoke-filled air. Can the ugly duckling hold the sky one more dawn?
September 15, 1940. 1100 hours. 25,000 feet above London. The sky is a cathedral of smoke and steel, the Thames a silver ribbon threading through hell. You're strapped into the Hurricane's narrow seat, oxygen hissing, the Merlins roar a constant prayer. Below, the city burns from last night's raid, Docklands still smoldering, St. Paul's dome defiant amid the haze. But today is different. Today is the day the Luftwaffe breaks, or Britain does. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park has gambled everything. Every serviceable fighter is airborne, 615 Hurricanes, 225 Spitfires, even gladiators from training squadrons. The Hurricanes are the anvil, the Spitfires the hammer. Göring, bloated with hubris, has thrown 1,200 aircraft in 2 massive waves, convinced the RAF is on its knees. He's wrong. Squadron leader Douglas Bader, now leading the Duxford wing, 5 squadrons strong, spots the first formation over Beachy Head. Big wing, tally-ho! Hurricanes low, Spitfires high. His voice cuts through the static like a blade. Below, number 303, Polish squadron's Hurricanes, scream in at 400 miles an hour, pilots fueled by vengeance for Warsaw. Flight Lieutenant Witholder Banowitz lines up a Heinkel at 300 yards, his 8 Brownings spitting 9,600 rounds per minute. The bomber disintegrates mid-air, crew tumbling like rag dolls. Urbanowitz doesn't celebrate. He's already rolling on to the next. The reversal is visceral. The Hurricane, mocked for its fabric wings, shrugs off 20mm hits that would shred a Spitfire's stressed skin. Its Merlin gulps 100-octane fuel, boost cranked to plus 12 pounds, pushing 1,300 horsepower through a 3-blade Rodal prop. Pilot Officer Johnny Johnson, future ace, dives through a bomber stream, cannon shells from a 109 stitching his fuselage. The Hurricane bleeds glycol, but keeps flying, fabric patches slapped on by ground crew between sorties. Johnson reverses, catches the 109 in a stall turn, and sends it flaming into the Surrey hills. On the ground, the Observer Corps tracks the carnage. A spotter near Dover shouts into the phone. Hundreds of them! Hurricanes everywhere, like hornets! The tally board at Uxbridge climbs. 41, 56, 78 enemy aircraft down. Göring's vaunted Luftwaffe is being flayed alive. In Berlin, the Reichsmarschall rages, demanding to know why his escorts can't protect the bombers. The answer is simple. The Hurricane is no longer the underdog. It's the butcher. By 14:30 hours, the second wave hits. 400 bombers, 500 fighters. But the RAF is ready. Number 74 Squadron Spitfires tangle with the 109s high above Kent, while Hurricanes gut the bomber boxes. Flying Officer Sailor Milan, South African ace of number 74, breaks off a 109 to watch Hurricanes below. "My God," he mutters, "they're tearing them apart." Milan's own score climbs, but it's the Hurricanes that rack up the kills. 185 confirmed by day's end, 126 to Hurricanes alone. The turning point comes at 1500 hours. A staffel of Ju-88s, panicked and scattered, jettisons bombs over Kent farmland and turns for home. One pilot, Oberlieutenant Hans Richter, radios Calais. Inglese Jäger überall, wir sind verloren. English fighters everywhere. We are lost. His Ju-88 is the 183rd kill. The Hurricane has spoken. As the sun sets crimson over the channel, the survivors limp home. Bader lands at Duxford, his prosthetic legs aching, but his grin fierce. "Told you the old girl had teeth," he tells the ground crew. They chalk another 23 kills on his Hurricane's nose. Across Kent, pilots stagger from cockpits, some weeping, some laughing, all alive. The mess halls echo with a new refrain. "To the Hurricane, the ugly bastard that saved England." Churchill, in the war room, watches the final tally. 56 German aircraft destroyed, 28 RAF, mostly Hurricanes. He lights a cigar, voice gravel. "Never in the field of human conflict." The words are forming. The legend is born. But the battle isn't over. Göring will switch to night bombing. The Blitz will rage. And the Hurricane, bloodied but unbowed, will fly into the darkness. One question remains. Can it hold the night as it held the day? September 15, 1940, 22:30 hours. Debden Aerodrome, Essex. The airfield is blacked out, but the sky is on fire. London burns 30 miles south, the glow pulsing like a dying heart. You stand on the dew-slick grass, ears ringing from the day's combat, the smell of scorched aluminum still clinging to your flight suit. A hurricane taxis in, its navigation lights dim red, the pilot's face ghost white under the cockpit glow. He doesn't speak, just raises 3 fingers. 3 more kills in the dusk. The Battle of Britain isn't over, it's mutating. Göring, humiliated by daylight losses, has ordered the Nachts jogged, night bombing to break British morale. The Luftwaffe's Heinkels and Dorniers will come under cover of darkness, navigating by radio beams and the inferno they create. Radar can't track them effectively yet. Chain home stations go blind above 20,000 feet in the dark. The RAF's answer? Night fighters. And the hurricane, scorned by day, becomes the only bird vicious enough to hunt in the void. At North Wold, Wing Commander Jack Satchel briefs No. 151 Squadron under a single bulb. No moon tonight. You'll fly by feel and fire. Cat's eyes only. The pilots, veterans of the day's carnage, nod grimly. Their hurricanes are stripped for the hunt, no reflector sights, just a dim red cockpit light to preserve night vision. Extra fuel tanks replace 2 machine guns. Range is everything when you're chasing ghosts over 200 miles of black water. Pilot Officer Jeffrey "Sammy" Allard, already an ace with 19 kills, climbs into his Hurricane Mark I, night fighter variant. The ground crew has painted the exhausts with heat-resistant matte to kill the glow. The propeller hub is blackened. Even the roundels are dulled. Allard's hands tremble as he straps in, not fear, but fury. He lost his brother over Dunkirk. Tonight, the sky is personal. Takeoff is blind, no runway lights, just a flare path of gooseneck lamps snuffed the moment wheels leave the ground. The Merlot howls into the abyss, instruments the only reality. Altimeter winding up, artificial horizon steady. Allard levels at 15,000 feet, the air thin and icy. Below, searchlights sweep like prison beams, catching the occasional Heinkel in a cone of white. Anti-aircraft guns bark, predictive fire, more prayer than science. Tracers arc lazily, then snap past with a crack. Contact comes sudden. A ground observer at Beachy Head spots a bomber's exhaust glow, vectors Allard by voice, Angel 12 heading 270, speed 180. Allard banks west, eyes straining. Minutes stretch like hours. Then, there. A silhouette against London's fires. A Heinkel HE-111. Navigation lights off, flying straight and level. Allard closes to 400 yards, throttle feathered to kill engine noise. The bomber's crew never sees him. He fires a 3-second burst, 6 Brownings stitching the fuselage. The Heinkel erupts, cartwheeling into the Thames estuary in a bloom of orange. Allard doesn't cheer, just banks north, hunting again. By 00200, the raids intensify. Over 300 bombers hit London. The East End is a furnace, warehouses, homes, the Royal Arsenal. Civilians die by the thousands. In the air, hurricanes prowl in pairs. Flight Lieutenant Richard "Dickie" Cork, on loan from the Fleet Air Arm, intercepts a Dornier DO-17 at 8,000 feet over Surrey. His burst severs the pale, the bomber plunges into a reservoir, the splash visible from miles. Cork's RT crackles with exhaustion. One more for the ugly duckling. Ground crews work miracles. At Biggin Hill, leading aircraft man Titch Palmer patches a Hurricane riddled with 47 holes, fabric doped, metal plates riveted, ready for dawn patrol in 4 hours. The Irks sleep under wings, tools in hand. Fuel bowsers never stop. The Hurricane's simplicity is its salvation. No complex hydraulics, just brute engineering. A Spitfire needs 120 man-hours per sortie, a Hurricane 60. September turns to October. The night war grinds on. Göring's losses mount. Over 300 aircraft in a month, many to hurricanes.
Hitler, impatient, postpones Sea Lion indefinitely on September 17th. The invasion barges rust in French ports. In the mess halls, pilots no longer joke about the hurricane's looks. They toast it. To the Hurry, the plane that refused to die. But the cost is brutal. Number 1 Squadron loses 16 pilots in 6 weeks. Replacements arrive, boys barely shaven, trained on tiger moths. The hurricane carries them anyway, forgiving their mistakes, teaching them survival and fire. By November, production shifts. Hurricane Mark II, with 1,460 HP Merlin 20, 12 machine guns or 4 20mm Hispano cannons. The beast evolves, but the legend is set. On November 11, Armistice Day, a lone hurricane flies over London at dawn. The pilot, identity unknown, dips wings above the cenotaph. Below, a nation looks up, through smoke, through grief, and sees not an ugly fighter, but a guardian. The skepticism is dead. The hurricane is Britain's sword, forged in the summer of 1940, tempered in the fires of the Blitz. The war will rage for years. The hurricane will fly in Malta, North Africa, Burma. Always the workhorse, never the star. But in this moment, over a battered city, the reversal is complete. From mockery to myth, from underdog to immortal.